I'm David Cameo, and we are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And today I'm here to talk about the 15th episode of Season 11, the final season, Trust. A couple of interesting things before we get started. Firstly, I mentioned in the last episode premiere, which wasn't too long ago because we're slowly kind of releasing episodes earlier and earlier out throughout the week, and then just in time for the finale, which is going to be next week. So what we are going to be doing in the next couple days is figuring out a very grandiose charity giveaway, because I had vowed since our last Jackbox charity live stream, which took place in February around my birthday, we said that we would forever at this point do our giveaways through some sort of charity of some sort of benefit for other people. So that's what I wanted to do from here on in. I'm still finalizing that. I'm going to be talking to a couple people who are going to be involved with that. So more on that soon. Second thing, more importantly, we have our first sponsor. I'd like to introduce you to Phineas Coffee. They are a the top grade coffee, and they are spelled Phineas coffee. The link to our affiliate link is down below, and you can get 10% off your first order of coffee. Anything you can do to help support this podcast is very much welcome, and kind of like a little reward back, you get 10% off your next coffee order. Kind of interesting. So they're fair trade, ethically sourced, kind of geared towards gamers, but it's really, really good coffee. I've tried it myself. So head over to the link in the description for the YouTube video or the Facebook video. We have it there. Or you can actually head to phineascoffee.com and enter the code SquawkingDead for your 10% off. Other than that, I mean, you can always support us by just following us on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. You don't have to tip us during the stream. But if you do, your message will show up in this video forever. Little perk you get. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to actually join a membership tier. Just follow us. We do have a merch store. The links to which are in the description for the YouTube and Facebook videos. You can also go to squawkingdead.com, click the main menu on the top left corner, and just click merch. And there's some really cool designs. I'm wearing them basically every day. This is our Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 inspired logo with the blue text in the black background. Other than that, get ready for a spicy episode where we kind of take a walk on the awkward side as we get ready to talk a little bit about politics, which can be a little dicey. But I really loved how this episode turned out. I think everybody did such a bang-up job. I can't ever thank both our hosts, Cosmom09 and Rachel Burt, and Sharon Day, a.k.a. Blazy Gardner, as well as our Survivors tier members, which, again, ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. The highest tier is the Survivors tier, which makes it so that you can join us during our episode breakdowns. Jasmine and Bridget are a bang-up team. They play well off of one another. And they come from different places, different walks of life, and different perspectives, and it added very, very well to this episode. So without further ado, thank you so much for showing up to this premiere, and I'll see you in the chat in just a second. Enjoy this episode, everybody. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. I'm joined hand in hand with Sharon D, a.k.a. Blazy Gardner, and Survivors tier members, Jasmine.iac on Instagram and ex-Prophecy Girl on Twitter, Bridget. We're here to talk about the 15th episode of The Walking Dead's 11th and final season, titled Trust. This episode annoyed me a little bit. Not like a terrible way, but I'm going to have to break this down and figure out something to say. The thing with Lance is starting to bother me a lot more. See, forget you guys. Let's talk about feelings. No, me first. My feelings.
All right,
because
Dave.
Yeah, what?
Continue.
Go on then.
Oh,
Go
okay.
on.
Well, now I had so much momentum, and then I was just like, "Go on, Dave." I'm like, "Wait, hold on, I forgot what I was going to say." No, the whole thing. I was defending him for so many episodes, and this episode was kind of tough.
I still think he's defendable, to be honest.
I still think so too, but it's a lot harder. And if it's a lot harder, then why? That's my annoyance. That's like, okay, how am I supposed to like see all sides of this when my personal feelings are not in a good place?
I really enjoyed the episode, and against what you're saying, I actually just really enjoyed like every single scene that Lance was in. I thought it was
Oh no, I
awesome.
did too.
Then what are you just trying to say?
I'm just like now, but I'm having a hard time to defending him. That's my problem.
But he's not supposed to be defended.
That's your opinion, man.
I love that Ezekiel finally got some more screen time in this episode, because I fucking love Ezekiel. He's probably one of my favourite characters. And I loved, obviously, Mercer and Princess. Can't beat the scene when they're in bed, basically straight out of the comic book. And then when they, like, made up, and it was, like, so sweet.
I first watched the episode on Sunday. And then, I don't remember when, but we had a conversation at some point, maybe in Discord. But something was said about how you hadn't watched the episode, Dave. And then I was like, wait, did I watch the episode? And I like racked my brain and could not remember like a single thing that had happened. And I was like, what? I'm like, I swear I watched the episode. And then I had to go back and like read a synopsis of what had happened because I like just straight up could not remember it at all. So that said a little to me about how I felt about it. But on second watch through, it was pretty good. There were some pretty good elements, but everything up to this point has been so like impactful, and there's been like these big events that have happened, and this one was just more mellow. Probably in lead up to this upcoming episode, I would guess.
Let me try this one on. Was it more like there was an expectation that this would be like a brawl and it didn't happen, or was it just the fact that it was just, it's just mellow?
I'm unsure. I think, yeah, maybe I went into it thinking like, okay, the last two episodes were like really good and like intertwined with each other, and there was like a lot of buildup and then some resolution. And so then maybe I was waiting for like buildup again. And it was, but it was like only buildup. Does that make sense?
No, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
You had made similar remarks in the last episode too.
Yeah.
Yes, the episodes flowed into one another, but like not a lot happened, quote unquote.
Do you think some of that could be because we were all on convention come down? Because I had a hard time remembering a lot of what happened, and I think it's because my mind was I'm still in the convention fog.
I'm still in that pandemic at Jenna's table.
I said that last week when we recorded. I was like, I don't know if it was pandemic and like coming back from it or what, but the episode didn't feel as good. But I think it's maybe I'm just sad.
It's not that the episode isn't
maybe
good.
I'm just depressed.
It's not The Walking Dead. It's not you. It's me.
From the perspective
Friend
of a
zone The
person-
Walking Dead.
From the perspective of a person that never got to go to a pandemic to begin with, I think one thing that really felt like, that it did feel very, very build-up-y is, because obviously we got that look ahead scene in episode 1109, and we finally caught up to that moment, and I think everybody was expecting this to be something huge, and then it wasn't.
I
So
feel
kind of-
responsible
there
for
was, there
that.
was a definite anticlimax to that particular
We
scene.
should have known better.
No, and
We
you know,
should've
I
known
feel
better.
I feel responsible for that. I kind of said, "Oh, this is going to be the knockdown, drag on. Some people are going to be pulling on hair. It's going to be gross."
Well, we all thought that was going to be absolutely crazy. Like, I think even people that didn't listen to the podcast were, like, hyping up that scene.
So basically, most people. Oh, self-deprecation. Not that they shouldn't be. Shouldn't be. You should be, because we're the best. Really selling it.
There's none better.
Ba-ba-ba-dum. Oh, why did I do this? For those of you who don't know, our April Fool's Day prank, which was yesterday, wasn't a prank. It was just kind of like a sweet little dumb thing that we did for April Fool's Day. Was we rebranded ourselves as Squawking Bread. I just wanted to let that hang there.
And only 2 people noticed.
Just because it made me, I was like, okay, what if guys, what if we were Squawking Bread? And our podcast pivoted towards baked goods and the love of gluten. Or non-gluten. We don't judge. We want to include everybody in their opinions and their dietary problems.
No, I don't.
About what? Sorry, Charity?
It's a podcast about Carol's cookies.
Yeah, I guess that would be included. Pastries, croissant. So, right? That's kind of a bread. A buttery, flaky bread. Right?
It's the best bread.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to choose, right? Although I kind of like fry bread.
Stop talking about bread.
Anyway, bread.
Sorry.
My bread went moldy today, so I had to throw it away.
Thank you, Jasmine. That made me feel a lot better.
Sorry.
Gross.
Don't want it quite as much now.
That's exactly what caused us to say, no, we have to go back to the Walking Dead universe. It's like, this bread game is it's a dirty business. A moldy one, in fact. The bread game. This gluten madness. Or non-gluten. Again, we don't judge.
No.
Are you saying like, oh, that's not bread?
No, we're not doing gluten-free bread. If this is
real, your
real.
gluten supremacy attitudes are not welcome on this podcast.
I'm an anti-glutite.
Listen. On this podcast, all dough matters. Am I glitching? I should be. Well, it's funny to us, everybody. So go fuck yourselves. What? Squawking Dead lost followers. Whatever. Squawking bread, everybody. All right, Charity, let's do this. Game time. What do you think about this episode?
Like I was saying, I had a hard time remembering what in the world happened in it, but after rewatching it this morning before the show, I really liked it. I feel like it kind of is solidifying my stance on Lance, that maybe he's kind of actually the mover and the shaker behind everything going on. Because I feel like he would definitely burn down the world if he could beat King of the Ashes.
Referring to your take last week.
I also wonder if they had a bet in the writer's room to see how many times they could use the word sex in one episode.
When did they use that word?
Between Lance and Princess, mostly, I think.
Lance.
When did Lance say it?
Unless the spin-off is with Lance and Maggie. There was some tension there.
Maggie likes the bad boys, I guess.
Sometimes the sad boys.
To be honest, Lance is shaping up to be my favorite character this season.
I
can get behind that.
I'm really
also in front
looking
of that.
forward to what Leah is going to get up to with Lance, because, yeah, that was awesome. She's got some guns, man. Lynn Collins has got like some arms. I can't help but notice. It's like Terminator 2
ripped.
Linda Hamilton arms, man. Like, ugh.
If they did a reboot of Terminator, cast Lynn Collins.
Yeah, she could totally.
I'm down with
she
that.
could totally be Sarah Connor.
I mean, just to put a cap on my feelings, it's not that I really like this episode. I actually liked some of the Lance reveals. It's kind of like watching Lance be able to navigate so well and knowing that, and I still believe that he basically, like you said, he is like the mover and shaker. He is kind of like the Saul Goodman. He is a response to a broken system and keeps it moving. However, what happens when that response, when that Saul Goodman goes out in the wild? Does it work? And I think the first tell is Toby Carlson and it not working well with him. I think he was supposed to be the nuclear option for whatever this project or this thing over here was supposed to be. But that didn't work. And so now he's doubling down. He's like, okay, it's got to be here somewhere. And so he's trying to pull his same games and his moves in the Commonwealth out there, and it's not working. He tests Aaron and Gabe. That's not working. He tests the car. That's not working. He tests the hat on Herschel's head, which he did fine. That's not working. It was kind of a misstep. He underestimated our group's tenacity. So I just feel like, and I wish Rachel was here. This is exactly what Rachel was talking about when she says, oh, he's a dum-dum. He thinks everything that he's going to do is going to work, and it doesn't. And I don't think that it makes him a dum-dum. I just think that when you're behind walls for 10 years, even if you're a scrapper like Lance, and I acknowledge that, they kind of bring that up in this episode. I was a gearhead, it shows like he came from nothing. But even still, you came from nothing in a pre-apocalypse universe. And then you maintain that pre-apocalypse universe, sort of, in this weird system, and then came up through that. And then what? You never got... It sounds like he never got to live out there in the zombie. Let's maybe start with that. Do you think Lance lived at all in the zombie apocalypse.
No, I don't think I think he was there when everything started. Because my theory about the Commonwealth, the Primrose Group that was mentioned in The World Beyond was in Toledo, Ohio. The Commonwealth is in Ohio. And I think that Lance and Pamela Milton were there, maybe having some kind of dealings with the Primrose Group when they started the apocalypse somehow. So they've started the Commonwealth right when it started, so I feel like he's been there the whole time. Maybe he's gone outside the walls to do things, but he's never had to survive outside the walls for any amount of time.
And to my point, enough to know what it's like out there.
Right,
this absolute libertarianism. And I'm going to mention that again and again. This absolute libertarian's wet dream. Absolute freedom. At the beginning of this episode, what is Lance trying to do? Is he just trying to get forensics, be a detective? Is he just trying to find out what's going on? What does he exactly want? Does he want the guns? Does he want to find out who did this? What is his personal mission as it pertains to this episode?
I think he totally thinks that Aaron and Gabriel are, if not in on it, they know who took the guns and stuff. And maybe he's even thinking that Maggie was in on it. I think it was partly to intimidate Daryl and Gabriel and Aaron to go to Hilltop and mess with Maggie. We're going to go search this place. But I also feel like maybe he feels like Maggie was in on it. Maybe Maggie was one of the people who maybe they went and took the stuff. Maybe not from the caravan, but maybe they went to the apartment complex, Riverbend, and they took it from there. Maybe Maggie has it now.
What you're saying is Maggie doesn't even know from Adam, these Riverbend people, but she managed to either slaughter them or steal the guns away from them? Or is that the impression you think he has of her?
No, I think he thinks that, he knows Maggie knows Aaron and Gabriel, and he thinks that Gabriel and Aaron were friends with the people inside of the Riverbend. So it would stand to reason that Maggie, they would like, Maggie, come get these guns, you could use them or whatever. So they got Maggie to come and take everything back to the Hilltop or whatever. I don't think he thought that.
Obviously.
I don't think he thought that going there. But once he got there and Aaron and Gabriel were like, yeah, that's our story. We're going to stick to that. And he was like,
who's this? Well, let's get one thing out of the way before we even go further down this rabbit hole, because it's like Alice in Wonderland. In prior episodes, we had said it's possible that Lance had deliberately hit or done something to the caravan to cause some sort of accident. Do we still think that? Or do we think that, generally speaking, that caravan was supposed to go to whatever that somewhere was supposed to be, whatever it was for? We don't think he deliberately caused that incident to happen, right?
No, I don't think so, because he was sending it to his secret project, and destroying his own caravan is just causing problems for him. I don't see how it would benefit him in any way. All it's doing is causing strife and costing him more soldiers. I don't think he did it. I think obviously Leah legitimately hit the caravan.
I'm trying to avoid from talking about that thing that he mentions to Carlson, that secret project, let's say, because it gets us nowhere. Maybe we can come back around to it if we figure out enough information. But I kind of want to not even talk about that, because it's so you just said something, Lance, and now we're like, oh, well, what is it? What is a secret project? We can't forget, right? It's the worst thing too, because it's like you have literally no information. Whatever that information was involved guns and soldiers and caravans and Leah. So instead of doing that, why is it important to indict Maggie in all this? That's the thing I really want to know, because you have two components here. Obviously, the Hilltop is close by, so who's the likely suspect, quote unquote, right? But then you have another component, and that's how Maggie turned him down, which caused all the other communities to not join the Commonwealth effectively. So that's the key component here, are these two things. Could be his pride, right? His pride being turned down and his mission having failed. And for a very ambitious person to have that sort of thing be taken away from you, they don't accept that. The wisdom to know the difference, accept the things you cannot change. And it's, you know what? And I just thought of a new thing. Fine. The Carol says in this episode, it's the hope that kills you. And that's kind of like Lance here. It's like this unwinnable situation. But you see him, he actually kind of almost sort of has them with Herschel's hat, even though it's like the most circumstantial of evidence ever in history. Glove don't fit, you must acquit sort of thing. The hat fits, you must join the Commonwealth, or you die, essentially. Because I think that's what he's trying to do by the end of it. like this sort of dual situation. Well, okay, I know you took the guns, Maggie. I know you did the things, Maggie. I know, even though they're not here, I know you did it. But you know what? I'll let it slide if you join the Commonwealth.
I think that even though he knows that Maggie's smart enough not to leave the guns in Hilltop or leave evidence in Hilltop, I think that he knows that she had something to do with it and that she knows more. And it's almost like, can I intimidate you into the point where you just confess, maybe?
But to what end? That's what I want to know.
To find these guns.
Is it to find the guns?
No, well, maybe not the guns per se, but to find out like where these people are that have killed all these soldiers, and just to get a bigger picture of what's actually happened and gone down.
Do you think he even cares about the soldiers?
I don't think he cares about them in the sense of their lives, but like almost like the principle of the matter to protect his ego.
The principle, see, that's okay. I had feelings about that too, right? The principle of the matter, his pride, his ego. I'm going to strong arm you. I'm going to put you in a headlock to join the Commonwealth, maybe. Or not, and I kill you, because that's apparently what he's proposing to Leah Shaw in the next episode.
Well, I think he cares not about the soldiers themselves, but about the fact that every time he loses more, he potentially is closer and closer to being caught by Pamela.
Which brings me to my next question, which is something I also thought of, because Maggie being alive, also Aaron, Gabe, and Daryl Dixon, those people are alive. Those people are witnesses. Two, at least, are witnesses to this crime. I keep thinking crime, but it's more of a massacre on both sides. So the more soldiers he loses, the more witnesses he has. Maggie, who refused him, is also, if she is involved, and he knows, let's give him a little credit, he knows she's somehow involved. These are all people who are liabilities to him, can expose him. They don't know everything, but they know something, and they're going to cause trouble.
They haven't said anything yet, but as soon as Carol found out, the first thing she did was go blab to everybody. They were talking about the people that were killed in the house. Connie and Kelly, and I forget who they were in the room with, and they were showing them the list. That's them already talking. Like, everybody in our group is telling everybody in our group and other people about what's happening, even if it's not just Lance.
Carol does interact with Ezekiel, but she doesn't really tell him exactly what's going on. She does allude to the fact that there's a side. It's hard for her. It's hard for her, and I like this. I like this tension. And she's like, I'm finding it hard to hold back not lying to Zeke. Like, oh, there's this another job that I have that's, you know, when I'm trying to fix things and things are wrong and I wish things were better. And yeah, so like you can feel her want to say something, but she just can't. But I don't think she actually says anything or delivers the details. Meanwhile, I write in my notes, Carol is the cornerstone to blowing this whole thing wide open. She doesn't know about the list per se, but she knows that Lance is behind it. And if Lance is behind it, and it's, let me explain the scenario I said last time, if the whole point of this whole thing is Lance sets up Sebastian, or at least backs Sebastian's play in order to have something on him so that Pamela doesn't win the next election, which he did speak with her about in one of the prior episodes. Oh, it's totally just at your discretion. You know, I'm behind you 100%, you know, for the next election. You know, and he wants to be the people's hero, essentially. Then, of course, he will help Sebastian create a list of names of people, at least in recent memory, that went to this house to get more money for Sebastian, to indict Sebastian as well as Pamela. So if Carol were to divulge her part of the evidence that she knows about, it just blows the whole thing wide open. It exposes the rotten core for what it is, or who it is.
At this point, though, do we not feel like Lance being a bad guy is kind of like an open secret? Like, everyone knows it, just no one's addressing it out of, like, fear of the consequences.
That's a tough one.
At least amongst our group.
Well, and Mercer and Maxine very clearly know, because there's that whole scene
like, I don't know how,
when Eugene shares it with her, she's like, well, way to bury the lead. Like, if I'd known it was about this guy, like, if it was about this family. So they all kind of know that everybody in charge is, like, corrupt in some way, I would guess. At least anybody who's higher up in something knows that. Maybe not like the people who work at the bakery or whatever, but not Carol, but like, you know, regular everyday workers.
But if you think about it, like, even Connie's boss was like, no, just write a good article about Pamela, about, like, after the whole resist the Commonwealth thing. So, like, I feel like it's just like an open secret. Like, everybody knows it's corrupt. Everybody knows that the people in power are dicks. Nobody's addressing it.
Which goes to the point of what Carol says, it's the hope that kills you. Well, this is the answer to what it's the hope that kills you. Is everybody all at once, all together now, doesn't sing. Or doesn't sing in the chorus. Meaning, like, if everybody thinks that it's the hope that kills you, of course, everybody's going to shovel all the shit that comes their way.
It's like Ezekiel says, why upset the apple cart that's keeping you safe?
And Mercer says that thing about, isn't it better to have this, like the way the world was, warts and all?
Yeah, and he says about the whole, I've got 50,000 other people to protect.
That was a big line. Yeah, you're right, but let's follow what you're thinking to its natural conclusion.
So essentially everyone in this episode, all these different groups at some point stated, yeah, we know it's not perfect. It's messed up.
The system as it stands is not only not perfect, it's just bad. It's just a bad framework, which allowed Lance to wheedle through it, which actually begs the question, okay, is the open secret that the Miltons are in charge of a system that doesn't work? Because I think that system is credited to Pamela's father and is tied to Pamela's father. Or is it that the people, because what the people don't know is Lance. It works in Lance's favor that the people don't know and recognize everything that he's done because the system is broken. Because the question is really, who is the bigger problem here? Is it the Miltons and the system? And maybe my framing is all wrong. Is it the Miltons and the system, or is it Lance Hornsby? Oh my God. To make a comparison, I can't believe I'm going to fucking say this. Please cancel me. Please. Okay. Cancel me in advance. But is Lance Hornsby like the Donald Trump of the zombie apocalypse, where he's just the natural conclusion to a broken system? Or is it the system itself, which is typically backed by mainstream? I'm not going to name a name, but like the politicians and the things that were, the shit that we're used to shoveling, right? So what's worse? Is it Lance Hornsby? And I'm just talking about Lance Hornsby now, so please don't cancel me any more than you already have just now. Because I don't want to talk about the actual things that he's done or not done or who he is or whatnot. I want to talk about Lance Hornsby. Because from our analysis, we've concluded that Lance Hornsby is the one that actually can get things done in this kind of system. It's something that we can't deny. But what's worse? The system that caused the Lance Hornsby to exist, or Lance Hornsby? And you could even say there's a kind of mirror to Mercer, in a way. Mercer not grabbing the ring of power. I mean, you could see that in this episode. He's like, first of all, he doesn't acknowledge that the people love him, or he doesn't feel that, or he doesn't recognize that power. But the moment that he exercised that power, or that Walking Dead universe is the self that you were meant to be, it scared the fuck out of him. Like, oh, I can do anything. Oh, I can do anything. That's frightening. That's not how I was raised. And yet I feel like I could do it again, because The Walking Dead, this is the Walking Dead formula. This is The Walking Dead makes you the libertarian's wet dream, the absolute freedom. Like, there are no consequences. There's nobody telling you what you're doing is wrong. That's scary. But let's go back to Lance. What is better? Is it the Miltons? What's worse, the Miltons and their system, or is it Lance Hornsby, the person who is the answer to that system that makes things continue working?
It's got to be a mixture of the two. Because without the flawed system, you can't produce Lance. Without Lance, you can't
uphold the system.
Yeah. They're just like working hand in hand to like in a negative way.
But the question now then is, what came first? And how do you solve this, right? It's a mess. And it kind of goes to Mercer's point. I got 50,000 other people to think of. And he's not wrong. Like, what is the natural conclusion to kind of indicting Sebastian in all this? Okay, the figureheads that represent the system are not trusted. How do we trust this system? People would revolt. It's not what we want. Society's fragile, or this society at least. Ooh, this is why I hate this episode in these terms, because it's like, ooh, this is very delicate.
Yeah, but this is why I love this episode.
I like it too, but like, it's hard to talk about, to navigate. I don't like doing hard things.
I think Lance was already a sneaky snake, and this system just allowed him to blossom, let's say, because he could take the reins and do things. And unlike previous society, it's not as easy to get caught. There's no oversight committee watching everything he does. Like, he pretty much has free, underhanded reign. He just has more agency to let that loose now. Let his Lance flag fly. It
sounds so dirty. I will say, though, well, let's let's take Lance to his natural conclusion. A lot of what we said in prior episodes, we're like, well, what would be so bad if Lance was in charge? My gut feeling is, and now my gut feeling is an asshole. My gut feeling says, unlike Mercer, I think when presented with absolute power, it would corrupt him absolutely. And the people would most likely be stuck with him. Now, I think the people act as a check to rein him in some ways, but because Lance is a byproduct of a system that is broken, and he's so intimately aware of that system and how it works, I think he would have the ability to delegate more corruption. He would invite his own cronies to exercise some of the things he was only able to do in the shadows. And then maybe we would have the system that we had before, like resembling kind of what we had before, where it's an open secret, everybody, that politicians are shitbags. Like we would continue accepting the shit that is shoveled our way, in a sense. And I'm not saying that's exactly how it is now. I'm trying not to, at least. I'm trying to be fair. But I know, don't look at me like that, Jasmine. You know what I really feel, but I'm trying to be fair-minded. But what would it mean? Carol really, really voices what everybody's saying. She says out loud what people are thinking inside their head. This is the best it's ever going to be. This is and are they wrong? This is the best case scenario in the Walking Dead universe. Compare that to even the Civic Republic in some senses. Civic Republic is a little scary in my book. Consignments, and at least this system resembles freedom. Do you know those waters that are flavored with the taste of blueberry or the taste of lime? That's the Commonwealth. It's but it's water. It'll sustain me. It's not a cool, refreshing soda, Jasmine, but it's still drinkable. It's still liquid.
I mean, I definitely think that perhaps people that aren't being put in the same positions as Daryl and Rosita and aren't actively witnessing the corruption. Say Princess, for example. She just goes to work. She goes home. She has a boyfriend. She's happy. She's safe. For some people, that's all they're gonna need. But for others, when they're
for most people, maybe, right?
Yeah, for most people. But then for the vast majority of people, this system works. But it's for people like Aaron and Gabe that got put in a difficult situation by Lance, or people that Sebastian uses for his own gain, or people that get unlucky and end up in poverty through no fault of their own. It's a horrible system that doesn't work. It works for a lot of people, but it's not a one-size-fits-all.
And is anything really, right? Is any system a one-size-fits-all? Which kind of makes you... and I have to just say this out loud, just to say it. It kind of makes you a little bit grateful, in a sense. I mean, for all its warts, this system has people in it that believe in it enough to either do their own thing and give charitably or create organizations that are charitable, or that we have a system or a framework with checks and balances and people who give a shit enough to make sure that the system doesn't collapse. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like being in this podcasting space for the last almost 4.5 years has made me really appreciate that a lot. As much of a, I'm going to say this out loud, as much of a kind of pseudo-libertarian I am, and I can afford to be one. I mentioned that the Walking Dead universe is kind of this absolute libertarian's wet dream, but libertarians do believe in the Constitution. They believe in a framework. I'm not an anarchist here, folks. But I can be that way or I can advocate for less government or whatever. And I'm giving you a little bit of the goods on me, but I can advocate for less government in most things because there is one, because there's too much of it, or there is a framework by which, or an ideal by which we can look toward and say that's pretty cool. I can get behind that. But get out of my living room or something like that. But but that's the thing. I have the luxury of that. These people don't, and that's a little imagine that the bedrock of your society has been swiped out from underneath you. There's no reason to advocate for that anymore.
But imagine they could have this system without corruption and with the ability to progress from the position that you're in.
That's a good point, but I have to bring in what the Walking Dead universe is. Imagine you had no rules. and you had to like literally be the pillar that most people would have to be the pillar by which they would be able to look to each other and force the rules. Like everybody is responsible for everybody else, or at least believes in something enough.
But that's what they had at Alexandria before the Whisperers.
And yet it fell too, right? And that's
from an external force.
Right, exactly. And yet this is right, and then the Commonwealth persists. That's the interesting thing. Like, is that even fair, right? Like, we want to think that karma is a thing, and that if we put enough good out in the universe, and that good should be reflected back. No, at least not in the Walking Dead universe, right? Because our Alexandrians are 100% good people. Okay, fine, with Negan, 98%. That's kind of a big slice off of Negan right there. But, like, they deserve it. And yet, you look at the Commonwealth, what did they do, right? I mean, they just believed in something, though. They said that it's the hope that kills you. I mean, this system is doable, and clearly it lasted the test of time.
I'm not sure that people actually believe in the system as such. I feel like they accept it because they're safe and because they have comfort.
But then isn't it that they believe it enough to go along with it? That's enough.
They'll go along with it. Yeah.
That's enough with it. That's enough.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is kind of like us though. We believe enough to get along, to move along. To be honest, and that's fine. That should be acceptable. Why is that wrong? I look at Tommy, and Tommy kind of articulates it, and he's I look at him in this episode, and I look at him like just afraid, and that is a sign of like a broken framework. Oh yeah, I see that the windows need to be fixed. I see the framing of this house needs to be fixed. The roof is threatening to collapse, and I see Tommy covering his head, duck and cover. Like he knows it could fall on him anytime, and when it does fall, it's going to fall hard, which kind of personifies what the system actually is. It's all enforcement. The Miltons are in charge. We don't really know what we're doing. we're just believing in a system because that's what worked. And kind of like Mercer says, like, I held it together for so long just so that we can make it to this point, but maybe I'm part of the problem. Maybe I upheld a system that really wasn't meant to survive, and yet it worked, and yet it's no longer working, or I can't handle it anymore, or I can't be the one that people look up to. And maybe, and again, not recognizing the power that he has, but maybe to Mercer's point, they look to him as in his actions. They look to him as this ideal of like, oh, this is what I could be, or this is how it could be. As long as people like him are in charge, maybe we can make a go of it. Like maybe we'll be okay if Mercer's at the top, if Mercer's the one protecting us. And maybe that's more than enough to have somebody like that have our back. But he's still a human being, and he still has needs, and he still has a conscience. When the bell is rung, you can't unring it. And now he's wondering to himself, like, what other horrible things have I been tasked to do that I didn't know I did, too? Probably. That's something I said in the last episode.
I'm just going to go out here. Okay, so I probably closest thing that I can identify to is libertarian. Myself.
You mean safely? I'm kidding. Maybe.
I mean, whatever. So I'm very big on like state government over federal government, less federal involvement, states' rights. Like that's my jam, right? So I feel like if I don't agree with somewhere, I should be able to move to a different state where I do agree with what they do there. That's my personal opinion. Now, that's not how the United States works. So we have a lot of federal government, but
yeah,
but those are my personal ideals. It ties in a lot with, I think, Christianity, and the idea that like the world is never going to be perfect because this isn't meant to be my permanent home or world. So I can be very nihilistic about this kind of stuff. Like when you're talking about this,
or cynical, right?
Yeah, like this whole like, well, you want to work together to make the world a better place. Like I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to be a shitbag. Because, like, I believe that you should,
I'm not going to be a jerk about it.
You should put good out in the world because that's what I want in return. But, it's like, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be people that screw that up. I mean, and this show just exemplifies that so well that, like, put in difficult situations, people are selfish and shitty. And this is how they can act. I don't know. So,
which makes me look at Mercer, too. Like, oh, nope, there's no check. There's nobody that's going to tell me I'm wrong. There's no God, maybe? I don't know. Let's go there, right? Because I'm bothered by the fact that nobody stopped me. Like, that nobody stopped me from killing my 2 soldiers. Like, that killing is wrong inherently, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely going through some sort of psychological kind of journey here, trying to figure out, like, how do I justify what I did so that I can still live with myself, but also, like, can I even justify? Because I know deep down what's right and what's wrong. And I know that what I did was wrong. I killed 2 men in cold blood because of what they had done, what I was angry about. So I get where he's kind of disassociating from everyone. I didn't love his interaction with Princess at the beginning of the episode. I get where he was coming from. But yeah, it is uncomfortable. And honestly, it was realistic. I'm married and I've been in relationships before my marriage, and sometimes those conversations do go that way, and it hurts. And I love that they showcased, like, how she was so, like, done in that moment, and she just rolled over and was like, this guy, I'm so unhappy in this moment, in this situation. That's realistic writing.
And even his, like, almost, like, immature response to her concern, that's realistic too.
Yeah.
You have to kind of look at it from both sides.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I love that he went back later in the episode and apologized, because he is a good guy. So I'm glad that
even if he doesn't know exactly what to say. Hand in hat here. It's not me. It's not how I want things to go down. But I think he's even shown that, like, I don't know that he's ever had like a mature relationship, or like an actual relationship. Oh, I'm down to fuck. But like, I've had a lot of sex. I think they're both saying exactly what their relationships kind of look like. Like, they're mostly sexual. There's no hope for attachment, like, especially post-apocalypse.
Well, you have to think, like, time frame wise, right? They're all what? And I would say, like, Princess and Mercer are, like, in their 30s. Is that, like, our guess?
I think there's definitely an age. What do you guys think? Do you think there's, like, an age difference between the two, and how big? What do you think, Jasmine?
I'd say their age is probably pretty similar.
You think? Okay.
Yeah, probably like 30s for both of them.
Yeah, early 30s.
So how many years into the apocalypse are we, technically?
12.
Technically 12.
12. So, right? And I'm 35. Yes. So, like, let me travel back.
I think Michael James Shaw is way older, though, isn't he?
Let me travel back. Well, let's say he's closer to 40. Okay, let's be
charitable and say he's closer to 40.
Fine. Okay, let me travel back to my early 20s, and how were my relationships at that point? Like, they weren't serious, and, like, for some people, some people do get serious early, and like, good for them, but, like, I was an absolute mess, a disaster. And honestly, I relate to Princess in the fact that, like, I feel like she's kind of that same way. Like, you don't always have to have it together, and I think that's fine. So, I think it's entirely likely that pre-apocalypse, there is no way that they had, like, serious, meaningful, like, committed relationships. Probably not. Like, maybe on a high school level, but...
Well, then, with all of Princess's... I'm trying to put this delicately, properly. But, like, she has some issues, like anxiety and ADHD and all those things that might hamper a relationship, too.
And daddy issues, and, yep, it's like there's so much of my personality that's in that.
I mean, I was just going to say that, like, I'm nearly 20. I am not doing any serious relationship things, so I can see how Princess would also be in the same place.
I think that they both acted very maturely, though, in the moment. I mean, they could have exploded into a huge screaming argument, but instead they were both like, okay. Prince was like, okay, I'll just step back a minute and let him figure out what he needs to figure out and think what he needs to think, and then, they worked it out. She could have been a bitch when he came back to apologize and been all snotty about it, but she wasn't. So I think that they were very immature maybe when the apocalypse started, but 12 years in the apocalypse will tend to mature you, usually.
And I kind of think Michael Mercer, at least post-apocalyptically, kind of just didn't leave room for himself. He made room for himself in terms of working on his body, but he didn't leave room enough for himself to actually have what would be considered an actual relationship.
Yeah,
I think it was DTF, but
the gym thing could definitely be escapism.
Or a way to work out his frustrations, to channel his frustrations. Right.
Frustrations. Yeah.
But it's not, the center cannot hold. Like, you could see him. He's like, I just can't grind killing 2 of my men out of me. But man, was it fun to watch. Even for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it.
Point out, like, he's just, like, the only person that hits the gym in the Commonwealth. Like, there was no one else there.
It's like his fortress of solitude, of gray solitude. Ooh, thank goodness. Like, can we just focus on this one man for 1 second? It's insane.
So when they, when they were like in the woods, like, when they saw Leah, I love how they have like bright fucking white armor on. Like they're not gonna get spotted.
Like, their red lines might as well be a target to all the vital parts.
Exactly.
Right.
The Commonwealth armor, I mean, it might be like a good material or something, but like, it is stupid to have it a bright white for any tactical purposes.
Apparently, the armor is made out of impenetrable material.
Right, as we discussed in the last episode.
Could they have not painted the impenetrable material like black?
Yeah, right.
Or green or something,
Have they not heard of camouflage?
Yeah.
I think that's the irony though, like, because I think the whole reason behind their outfit is the irony of like, okay, the only thing we need to worry about are walkers, right? Because it's the Commonwealth. Like, we're establishing the world order, not the new world order, the old world order.
Tell that to all the soldiers that got killed by Leah.
But that's the problem. They're like, we're fine. What's there to worry about? We have the walls. The society's all about what happens within our walls, not outside our walls. I think they really do think that the world outside has been taken care of by the dead for the most part, and that nobody would be stupid enough to like hit them. So their armor is more of like, this is how it is. This is the way the world works.
Maybe no one's stupid enough to hit them in terms of inside their walls, but if people are wandering around with carts full of guns down the street, I mean, people are gonna hit that.
Like Michael James Shaw. Oh, to their peril. I think that their whole thing is probably like might makes right. Like that we're unstoppable. Like, it's not like the Civic Republic military where they really are trying to be careful. Like, okay, there definitely are people out there. We don't want them to know we exist even for a second. It's two different philosophies here. Like, here I am, like, the Commonwealth is kind of like almost like, here's my big dick, watch out for it. And the Civic Republic's like, well, I have a big dick too, but the fact that you even heard me say that means you're dead. Sorry to put it in quite crass way, but right.
I mean, true.
If the codpiece
I love that Bridget came back to that with no context though.
Just big dick energy. That's all.
Commonwealth is big dick energy, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong per se, but they never met Leah before. Too.
A question I've been thinking: is it human nature that creates this kind of society? Because they had the opportunity with the apocalypse to kind of do a reboot and build their own society that they wanted, and yet they immediately reverted back to the top-heavy, basically what serfdom, peasantry. So is that like the go-to for humanity, or they can't think outside the box? I mean, both societies that have succeeded apparently are basically the same. Only one is military top-heavy and the other one is politician top-heavy, I guess, or rich people top-heavy. So I'm just wondering if that's like the way it's always going to go. Is that the way it's always going to be, or is there potential for something different?
Me and Aiden discussed this one in the Discord, actually. Basically, what we kind of decided was that the people that are in charge were benefited by the system in the old world. So of course they're gonna want to rebuild the same system that they know will benefit them. And then also like the prospect of sometimes it's easier just to do something you're familiar with than to actually think outside the box.
Or I might as well bring this up now. Bridget, hold me. 'Cause I'm going into territory I can't help from not going. It's very easy for I'm almost like regretful putting it this way. It's very easy for somebody who's younger to not understand why something works. And I'll say this because I'm speaking for myself. 20 years ago, or 30, even 10 years ago, there's a certain ancient wisdom that has evolved and persisted throughout time because it works. It just works. Now, this type of system, even though it's and we can all admit, this type of system like the Commonwealth, and maybe like the Civic Republic is what Sharondy was alluding to, they resemble at least systems that work. A generally sort of pseudo-capitalistic, meritocratic, there's a system of rewards and payments and, like, okay, I give you a service, I am compensated in some way, or at least bartered for, right? These systems tend to work. Why do they survive? You can even see, like, China is evolving in some certain senses to a system of capitalism, or at least some sort of meritocratic system, even though there are these haunts and authorities of communism in the backdrop. And yet they're somehow moving into the space of capitalism.
Right, but can we appreciate that there's actually, in certain countries, there is more socialist societies, and they do work. They have lower mortality rates, lower suicide rates, higher general happiness rates than these countries that are authoritarian or these extreme versions of capitalism, like the US.
I would say that they only exist because capitalism is present. Otherwise, it would not.
Yeah, I'm saying these extreme forms of capitalism, like in the US, where it's like, literally, if you get unlucky or you need medical care, you're just fucked. Whereas other countries have systems in place that are more socialist, that mean if you do need surgery for whatever reason, you will actually be able to get it without putting yourself into masses of debt.
Things like that they tend to go according to cultural values. The interesting thing about the United States is that it was built upon a system of liberty. Well, yes, in some respects. And I don't want to wade too far in these waters because everybody seems to have an opinion like assholes. But in terms of the ideal, the system is built on liberty. Let's take the original question that was asked, which was, why do these systems seem to exist? Well, the United States is a sort of experiment in taking all the ancient wisdom, and you're talking about coupling that with first principles that were developed from the Magna Carta on. So you have this experiment, this humongous experiment. Let's take all these good ideas and ancient ideas and let's bring them to this quote unquote new world. I know Native Americans, but okay, we have the opportunity here to, and no system and no country wasn't built without bloodshed, but we have the opportunity here now that the road's been paved to do it right. And yet they still used like a capitalist framework. They still used it because it works.
I'm not saying that a capitalist framework doesn't work. I'm saying that there needs to be more than just the capitalist framework. You can't just solely have...
Oh, nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying otherwise.
But that's what the Commonwealth is.
But what is the common denominator? That's the system that works. Now, again, we've all said it. No system is perfect. Everybody has the right to experiment, or every country has the right to experiment their version of what they think is right. But that's not what I want to talk about now. I want to wade even deeper into stupid fuck waters, because what Mercer is basically embodying, his struggle, is getting me in so much trouble. His struggle is basically an argument for conservatism.
Explain that.
I'm going to have to. And I want to preface this by saying no political philosophy, when taken to their extreme, clearly libertarianism, because libertarian even taken to its extreme, or like an extremist version of it, is anarchy, right? Is chaos. But most libertarians don't believe in chaos. In fact, they believe quite the opposite, which is very interesting, but diverse. So when I say conservatism, I'm talking about just the political philosophy. Let's preserve what was. And part of what was are things like military structures, hierarchies, constitutions, the old rules. Let's not be so ready to get rid of things, because what happens when you do? Mercer kills 2 of his soldiers. If he had just stayed within his lane of, and he even admits this, if I would have just stayed within my lane, I wouldn't have had to unring that bell. But I saw it for what it was. Maxine even says it. It is what it is. I may not even be ready for this, but now that I know about it, I have a responsibility. I can either look the other way and pretend everything is normal, but now that I see the cracks, it's like hearing the faucet drip. Most of the times you don't hear it. It just blends into the background noise of the day. But once you start hearing it, you're like, fuck, this is driving me insane. But what do I mean by conservatism? It's essentially what he's saying is, my parents taught me a certain way to be a certain way. They gave me a framework within which I operate in the world. But the second I figure out that this framework doesn't exist, at least in this zombie apocalypse, I shot 2 of my guys. And I knew I wouldn't be punished for it. I need rules. I need that framework, or at least I need somebody to help me exist within that framework. Because if there is no God, if there's no real rules, what's keeping me tethered? It's a very interesting thing to think about. Again, he's making an argument for conservatism, to conserve and preserve the old ways, in a sense.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they had a better society,
Yes.
then Mercer may have never been put in that position in the first place where he would have to question his morals, because Sebastian wouldn't have all of that power to do all of that bad.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's like a perpetual cycle.
Yeah. The problem with all of this is that the arguments that you and Aiden have had are very, very interesting ones, because I'm sure there are many, many communities that have tried to reinvent the wheel, or tried to at least resemble in some altruistic way the old system without all the problems. I mean, more barbarous socialistic societies that try to act more like utopias. However, they all seem to fall. Why? We don't know. But clearly,
there's plenty of examples worldwide currently of countries that exist with socialism and capitalism simultaneously.
Right.
That work and are much better than the societies that we have in the UK or the US or the Commonwealth.
Disagree on the US, but let's move on.
Well, I was gonna say, just going back to the show and not real life examples. Well, I guess it kind of ties in, right? So we were just talking about Idiocracy the other day on the Discord, right? So, and I agree, very close to a documentary nowadays. The main point of that is that people are dumb. And I think we've seen, like, the general populace can be kind of dumb. We've seen it. We saw it through the pandemic. There's a lot of selfishness. There's a lot of not thinking about other people. It's only thinking about myself. How am I going to get myself through this? That's the one part of this show that's always been consistent, is given an opportunity for the world to have a clean slate. The world no longer cares about who you used to be. There are still shitbags, because people are shitbags, and they're stupid and they're selfish. And so that's how we end up where we end up. Now, do I think, to Sharondy's question, so the way Commonwealth succeeds, the way the CR succeeds, is because they have charismatic people as leaders who can go in and say, hey, let's do this thing. And so essentially someone at the center had to be charismatic to be able to pull people in, very much like a politician, pull people in, make them believe, let's go back to the way things were. And people, being selfish and scared and dumb and used to what they're used to, will go, yes, please, give me my ice cream and I will do work for very little money, because it's easy. In my opinion, that's how it ends up happening. That's how that ends up succeeding. You've got outliers like our group who created a society of their own that obviously is more like about bartering and sharing and you know, kind of like a commune type world where, you know, many of us make the decisions and it's not just one person in charge. And I think that they could do that, but everything keeps getting interrupted by people who are shitbags. What would they have?
It's hard for me to say that people are dumb. I just tend to feel like people have different values. Yes, 100% on the selfish. We're secretly that way, even though we don't want to admit that we're that way. We are that way through varying degrees, admittedly, but when given the opportunity, damn, we're all that way.
I'm not saying I'm not a shitbag and that I'm not dumb. Like I'm right there with everybody else.
I'm a student of history. I read a lot of real history, not high school book, patriot bullshit history. And if there's one thing history has proven, is that given the opportunity, people will almost always do the thing that benefits them, no matter what, if it's right or wrong. So when people say, oh, we should, and I don't mean to offend anybody if I say this, but we should just have pure freedom and everybody should do whatever they want. The problem is people will not do the right thing. Let's go with environmental law. You know, oh, we have to legislate everything and we have to recycle and we have to have all these, you know, laws about the environment. But if you don't, people will just pollute everything. I mean, you have to legislate something, so you have to make people do things, because otherwise they won't do it. Oh, throw trash in the ocean? I don't give a shit. Here, boom. While I wish we could do absolute liberty and everybody could do what they wanted and be free, the problem is people will always do shit to fuck everybody else over. Always. Or
at least enough people will do stupid shit to fuck it up for everybody else. And in the end, everybody can agree with that. That's why we have so many political philosophies too.
My feeling is, do whatever the hell you want in your life as long as you're not hurting somebody else. Whatever you want to do it if it makes you happy. It's not at the expense of someone else or someone else's.
The reason why I love looking at all these political philosophies, and maybe we'll just leave it there, I don't know, and it's something that I've actually learned because as a result of examining these shows, there's definitely no one size fits all. And I find that most people are a mix of so many different things to the point where they're contradictory. And I think most people are contradictory when it comes to what they say they believe versus what they actually display or actually believe too. Like, I don't think people believe exactly what they say they believe 100% of the time. I think it's more like 20%. But what I like about political philosophies, you can make a good case for every single one of them. Every single one of them, because I'm going to take conservatism for an example. Like, conservatism means that we preserve the rules and the ideals as they were, and that we get our moral framework from a higher power, let's say. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but in most cases it is that, and that we rely on that to guide our principles, right? The outside of the government thing to guide our principles. Now, I think that's kind of beautiful, but like Sharon said, when left to your own devices, it's possible that like people act out of their own self-interest and don't use that belief as that guiding principle, that external belief, the thing, that God that they choose or gods they choose to worship, or spaghetti monster or whatever, right? So then libertarians aren't right either, which is why I say that they're probably the most diverse in thought, because everybody has a guiding principle that guides them that's very much different. Also, the flavors of libertarianism are vast. You've got left-leaning social libertarians, you've got conservative libertarians too, that, you know, use God as a thing. But the basic tenet is, okay, like, I'm free to do whatever I want to do as a human being in this country. Just don't impinge on other people's liberty. Don't, non-aggression principle, all that stuff. But that at its extreme is anarchy, which is kind of like what resembles the Walking Dead universe. But like, where are the guardrails? Where's the system of government? It's not there. So your libertarianism is not going to work. There's no framework. It's gone. You can't be one. Next. And then there are people who advocate for too much government. But if you advocate for too much government, a type of government that kind of runs your day-to-day life, well, you have something that kind of resembles a little bit more of what these communities are. Like, okay, if government is everything, we're always afraid of misstepping, or this wonky framework. And of course, nobody's saying that a system of government that runs your life, that generally like kind of runs the day-to-day of everything that you do or supports all your endeavors is a terrible one. But if they are entrenched, and Lance is entrenched in most of the day-to-day dealings of the Commonwealth, well, then that doesn't sound great at all. Because clearly there's a list of people that he has that is basically supporting these higher up people that are in government that create all the rules. And that's a problem. And it's not an easy thing to beat. I think the one thing that we can all agree on is that once a law is created, it's hard to dial back. It's hard to get rid of laws that are already in place, which is kind of like why there are other philosophies that say, can we not do more laws? Can we maybe not, please? Because once you put something in place, we don't know what the consequences are, and it's hard to remove. Everybody is kind of right, because everybody wants, and this is the thing that I've learned from the show, everybody wants what's best for everybody, which is why I hold back from saying most people are stupid, which is why I hold back from being so cynical, Bridget.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry, because I need
I honestly
need your perspective.
I don't mean to offend like anyone that's listening by any means. I'm sure you're all very kind people. But
people are stupid.
I was just going based on what Sharon D said. Essentially, like, history has shown people are shitbags.
Which is what Mercer is afraid of, which is why it's easy for me to go back now, because that's what Mercer is essentially afraid of. If I grab the ring, who's to say I've already done it? Who's to say that I won't be just as bad, right? He can't see himself for who he is, except Max can. And I like that. That was such a sweet, typical brother-sister moment. You know what you're talking about. Like, first of all, like the razzing, the egging on, the kind of like, well, I seem to remember a little girl who got caught playing on the little radio with her geek friend. You know, I bailed her ass out like a big brother does, Michael Mercer. So
Eugene is a geek, so that's
they're both geeks. They're both geeks. That was kind of like the biggest bright spot. Well, okay, aside from like the Zeke stuff. Oh man. But like Mercer being this layered, incredible person, he has his flaws, but they're not that many. but I can't see them. But I just,
sure, it's the light.
There's so much light coming out of you, Mercer. Just saying.
Dave is not even listening to what Mercer is saying.
I'm not even listening to what I'm saying.
At Mercer.
I'm cursing the fact that I said he was flawed. Ugh, how dare I betray his Adonis figure? Anyway, so But the fact that he can make mistakes and not know exactly how to treat Princess, that jerk, how dare he? It's cool. Like, he's not all like Captain America, you know, like Captain Commonwealth. It's endearing. It makes me love him more.
Well, humans are flawed, and the show has always been really good about showcasing that.
I have never been so anxious about a car starting that was not my car.
Oh my God, I know.
I wish I had gotten Dennis to watch this scene so he could give us his mechanics. He would have been like, nah, that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. That's stupid. He does it every time there's something mechanical going on.
All right, so then maybe you don't wish. Maybe you don't wish. He'd ruin it for you.
Obviously, they disabled something else. Mr. Gearhead only saw the one thing that was disconnected. Maybe they did that as a, oh, look, he'll get in there and see this thing disconnected and think that's it or whatever, so.
I was really nervous about it during the first watch. It's like one of the only things I remember about watching it the first time was that moment and how Maggie looked so, like, fraught with worry. But I thought about it after and I was like, well, of course they did something else to make sure that the truck wasn't running, because they talked at the end of the last episode about how, well, someone's going to have to take these people in, and obviously the Commonwealth is going to know something's up. And so, like, obviously they prepared for this, but I don't know why I was so nervous the whole time. Like, Lance is going to find something and it's going to ruin everything. Like, I was so nervous.
You know, it's funny, like, why? Why were we so nervous? Because I think mostly because we thought Lance is pretty savvy, smart. He's just entrenched everywhere, and I don't blame him for not knowing.
But he made a real ass out of himself in this episode.
Yeah.
He just kept assuming things, like, left and right.
He thinks if he does A, B, and C, then D is naturally going to fall into line. He thinks he knows our group, but obviously Daryl is not on his side in any way, shape, or form, and I think he's making it pretty fucking clear throughout the episode that he is not on Lance's side, but yet Lance is still using him. Like, he thinks Daryl's just going to eventually fall in line or something. I don't understand what's going on there.
Well, he said that about Aaron and Gabe, too.
You know, to maybe articulate further what Rachel's saying is he thinks because it goes to our bigger conversation. Okay, maybe like a libertarian thinks there's a framework in place so we can do whatever we want, or that we can exist in a world that is free from rules. No, that's not how that works. Maybe he thinks that this world is built on an objective, inherent moral framework, or at least some sort of guiding, intelligent principle. But it's chaos out there, dude. If you try to do 2 + 2, it's not going to equal 4 out there. You can't account for everything. Maybe this goes to Gabriel's sermon. The whole point of that sermon was to illustrate, you know, hey, God, give me all the natural rights that are owed to me so that I can do things on my own. You know, yeah, but I gave that to everybody. So if you just want that, you're going to have to deal with other people. You know, you don't have me on your side. But if you look to me for guidance, and if you ask for atonement, if you devote yourself to serving me, then yeah, which is illustrating the higher moral framework that we should all tilt towards. You know, the idea that if we believe in something bigger than ourselves, because the world out there you have no control over. You think you do. Son, you think you're in control. You're not. Who says this? And I can't remember exactly who it is. Hell is other people. Hell is other people because you cannot account for them. They too have free will. The free will to do right and wrong to you. And so that's Lance. Lance is going into the world thinking they abide by a moral framework, or they want something, or sometimes it's not just about want. Sometimes people want the world to burn, or sometimes people have been out there too long to really trust other people. And you can only trust your immediate family. So, like, I will do whatever it takes. It kind of goes to what Lance says to Toby Carlson. He says, or I think, was it to even Pamela? No, he wouldn't say that to Pamela, because he wants he wants her to think these communities are valuable. He says it to Toby Carlson. He says, these hick communities. He's like, okay, I'm going to tell you what I really think, or at least what I think about these communities, but they serve my ends. Whatever those ends are, I have fucking no idea at this point. To make him look good with Pamela, but to what end? What's the point?
And I was going to add that kind of goes back to him always being inside the walls since the beginning. So, of course, he thinks everything's going to go his way, because it has. He hasn't had to have anything go seriously south.
Right. And for the reasons that we've all had to witness throughout these seasons, for absolute anarchy and no moral framework, no God, no objective moral truth, let's say. The God-given free will and self-startership that everybody uses to get what they want. There's no cooperation outside the walls like there is in the Commonwealth, where people are shoveling the shit that they're given. All hick communities. He that's what he really thinks. These people are all about self-interest. I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem, is he thinks everybody out there is in, maybe like to Bridget's mentality, he must think that everybody is he must think that everybody else is stupid, you know, or self-interested.
Everybody's willing to compromise their morals when it comes down to it, is what he thinks. Because he is.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess. Or maybe that's just the way he is. Like, isn't that, he's like thinking, isn't that how the world works before and after? What's the difference? What's the difference? That's all he knew. That's why I feel bad for him. But what surprises him at every turn when he's testing these people, I see him throw Aaron and Gabriel to the wolves, or, well, the walkers, as it means to, like, get rid of them or to test them, their theory of, like, oh, I was able to handle myself. All right, if you can handle yourself, here's some walkers. Okay, go at it, have at it. Oh, they can handle themselves. Okay, maybe I was wrong about them. And yet I just have a bad feeling about this. Okay, fine. Goes to Maggie. The car won't start, you know, and then because we were just talking about that. And we could say that Maggie was showing the obvious imperfection, thinking two moves ahead and disconnect something else, let's say, to make the car not work. Let's show the obvious thing that's wrong with the car. Lance is like, oh, you're so stupid. It was just the starter, you idiot. You dumb hick.
Except
to the community.
I think that he 100% thought that they disconnected that on purpose to try to throw him off. I don't think that he thought they were stupid because of that. I think that they did this on purpose. They could fool me. Right, they thought they could fool me.
Which goes to him thinking they're stupid.
All right. So this feels like a real after-school special moment for me right now.
But no, it's
like
good.
I'm wrong and people are smart.
No, you're definitely. So here's where I turn it around, Bridget. You're not wrong, and I don't blame Lance Hornsby at all because it worked for him. He was the smartest guy in the room, but he worked on it. He figured from being at the bottom, knowing what it's like to be around all those stupid people. I'm just kidding.
Maybe I shouldn't say stupid so much as complacent.
I think that's accurate too. Like, he was not complacent. He was ambitious. But going back to this example, he thinks that, oh, they were just trying to fool me. Like, these self-interest, they're trying to get one past me. And yet they did. They did. Because they showed him the obvious thing when there was something underneath there. The still waters run deep, Maggie. Down to the hat. Herschel's holding his own with the hat and Lance Hornsby. But there was a frustrating moment on first watch. Like, I love can we just say, on first watch, I felt all these weird things. And one of the weird things I felt on first watch was I'm yelling in my head because there's nobody around to hear me, right? So I'm like, why yell out loud? Herschel, give him back the hat. Give him back the hat to prove that it's not your hat. And yet it's still on his head. It's like, I don't want this from you. I don't want gifts from you. This is not mine. And I'm like, dude, throw him off the scent. Make him feel like a complete dumbass. Like, oh, a complete idiot. But he doesn't. And I'm like, all right, okay. I'm like nervous. Second watch, I'm like, what does it matter? What does it matter? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers, whatever. Fuck it. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares, Bridget? Did anybody have that reaction? Like, because I feel like a total jerk. Because like a weirdo. Because he didn't give back the hat.
No, I didn't even think about it. Like, I was just so worried that because he's a kid. I was worried he was going to be like, I was just helping my mom or like whatever. And I was going to be like, you idiot. Like, I was so worried about him saying something dumb. I wasn't even thinking about that.
My mind was racing a million miles a second though in that moment too.
Plus Elijah with that like don't touch him. Like, I was like, yes,
king.
Where has this been? This is what I want right here.
Actually, yeah, to Sharon, like, what did you feel about that moment where Elijah kind of puts Lance against the wall? Compared to like your reaction to Josephine, like,
oh, I mean, whatever. Like, anybody could have done it. It's not like it was special because it was Elijah. He was just the one that was there.
He was just close by. Whatever.
I mean, could have been anybody. And I don't know if you noticed, but he was making his funky faces, like when he was holding Lance up against the wall. You could see him from the side. I thought about that. Yeah. That was what I was thinking about. Yeah. He put his hands on Herschel.
I loved it.
I was definitely here for it. I had like yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I would have been just as happy with anybody slamming Lance against the wall, and that it was Elijah didn't mean anything.
I kind of want to go back to just a second before Lance shows his dumb face, and not to say it just, he's next to Glenn's grave. Herschel is like by his father's grave. I'm gonna assume, I think, right? It's safe to assume that Herschel was visiting the grave of his father for the first.
Maybe he was visiting Abraham's grave. It could be like Enid, where like Enid put the balloons on the wrong grave.
Whoops. They're all nameless. Who knows? When you die, you just become part of the continuum of dead people.
Go back to the earth. See, Teddy was right.
Right. You're all the same now. We have no special attachments. But let's just say that that's the case. There's a choice that's being made here in this moment that makes my mind race when Lance actually comes up to him. Because I'd said something in the last episode about, Herschel's 1,000-mile stare into Negan's soul. As Maggie's trying to talk to him and have a conversation, and you guys are obsessed over hugs, and I'm like, are you not seeing this psychopath look at Negan? It's like, do you not know that there's a psychopath Herschel waiting to come out? So when I saw that, I'm like thinking to myself, is he gonna tell on either Maggie or Negan in this moment? Because he kind of doesn't say anything. So you saw that too? Okay, can you talk about that?
My first thought was, right, he's going to tell Lance so that Lance will kill Negan or something along them lines.
But I was thinking even his mom for a sec, because like, bitch didn't tell me that this guy was the one that did my daddy, right?
Yeah, it was. I genuinely like. I thought we were gonna get like a little psychopath Herschel moment. I was kind of disappointed.
I didn't see that at all. What I saw was Herschel being like, this dude is thinking he can get some shit over on me. This dude.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, I didn't see any against Maggie or anything. I didn't see anything like that. I just saw him being like, this dude, whatever. Trying to give me a hat. Come on. Better game.
No, I don't disagree. But like, the fact that he didn't say anything made my mind go everywhere. Because the choice of going from Glenn's grave to this moment, and then we experienced the last episode, and thank God we get to still watch this show week by week, because in your mind you're simmering throughout the week and you're going, is this the moment? Was that the moment where he became psychopath Herschel, like with the 1,000-mile stare at Negan's brain head, where he wants to hit with a gun bullet? Anyway, so I'm glad I'm not alone, but I am also glad that, of course, it would be more interesting if you turned out to be psychopath Herschel, sure. But I don't want that. I don't want that, right? See, Jasmine, we're on the same page. But at the same time, wouldn't that be interesting? But like the fact that, his first words to Maggie are, he said something bad would happen. He says this in the subtitles, which isn't exactly the truth, first of all, which does tell me that he's pretty fucking smart. It's like he knew exactly what button to press on the Maggie computer to bring out Savage Maggie. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
I felt like it was more like he knew that was what Lance was insinuating.
Yeah. But again, still smart, which also still makes me worry. It's like, mommy, this guy said he was going to destroy us. Oh, shit. Shit. Thank you for saying that, Jasmine. Thank you for making me feel like I'm not alone in thinking that. I knew the audience might think that too. You never know. But at the time, I'm just with you guys. All right. So I think we've run the gamut on Lance. Let's switch gears to Zeke and the free clinic. Because there's a little bit of an interesting yin-yang between Carol and Zeke. We get the opportunity to see Carol deal with the Commonwealth for what it is. But you get to see Zeke somewhat similarly do the same, but for different reasons. So they really are a lot like a yin-yang. Carol deals with the system as it is to benefit from it. Zeke exploits the system or disobeys the system in order to say, yes, I'm a petting zoo owner, operator, and I am in charge of this free clinic. I'm using this space as a free clinic. So I like to see both of these things working in harmony now, because Carol is looking at him and go, how did you do the thing that benefits everybody? And I'm doing the thing that just benefits the few. She's looking at him going like, how do you do that? You son of a bitch. How do you do that? Why can't I be more like you? And he goes, no, you don't understand. You made what I'm doing possible. I looked at you. You started this thought process, and you actually made it happen. You helped me take the next step to appendectomies. And all I had to do was convince a doctor to join the ride. Somebody whom I thought also, like, just thinking about what Tommy did for him must be just all sorts of grateful. But I also think that just kind of like there's a little interesting parallel here or callback to Siddiq's visit to Zeke just before he heads out on the mission. And they have this kind of like moment where Siddiq is basically articulating to Zeke, like, what is this all for? You know, if not to live, if we can't be honest with each other, if we can't be open with each other, you know, if we can't love each other, just tell the truth, you know, spill the beans. This life's too short. And then, I don't know, the same episode, Siddiq dies. And so I think what Zeke was kind of doing with Tommy is saying life's too short to be afraid all the time. You got to tell somebody what you're going through. If your fucking ass dumb sister, whom is incredibly badass, but she's just terrible with him when he's saying the truth, when he's saying that I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this because it doesn't make me feel happy. Shut up and do the things. Do the Commonwealth things. Zeke figures out that's what's going on here. Like, and I need to help him like Siddiq helped me. Find your truth, Tommy. And so he gives him like the way that he feels like what he's doing or his talent is rewarded. Like, oh, I get to help everybody now. I get to help people that are in need.
Rachel had the thought when Zeke comes in and Tommy is sitting at his desk and he really hurriedly puts away the whiskey and the pills. And she said that for just a second, she thought that maybe he was contemplating suicide with the whiskey and the pills. So did any of you feel, I didn't see that myself, but I thought maybe he was just trying to make himself feel better.
I thought he was like, I thought he was like struggling with like maybe some substance abuse stuff.
To cope. But on second
so
watch.
I didn't even think that. But now that you say that, that's a really interesting, he's really unhappy.
And he just lost the patient. Mm-hmm. And it really brought him down.
Yeah. To go from being really happy before his sister shows up. So like he, you know, can live in this world of like delusion that like my sister's tough and she's probably out there and she's probably fine. But I get to finally be who I want to be because...
That bitch ain't around. No, I'm kidding.
Because the apocalypse reset everything. And so I get to be who I want to. To then lose that because your sister comes in and tells everyone what exactly it is that you are capable of doing. And now you're just thrown back into that stressful lifestyle. And it's made worse by the fact that you can't help as many people as you want to help because there's a system in place that really, you know, kind of ruins that for you. I can't imagine the level of depression you would feel to feel like you could finally be who you wanted to be and then have it all stripped away.
It kind of is a reflection of what Maxine is saying, to see the system for what it is, you know, and how it works, and to be so intimately aware with it. And even in a system like this where everybody has to wait their turn and blah, 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 and to be able to afford the care to be provided, let's say, and I still lost the patient, that's my breaking point. I can't handle it. Can't handle it. So, you know what, Rachel, kudos. You know, there's definitely a way of seeing that, and I don't disagree with it 100%. I don't think that's the case, but like I also think it's just enough to make you think that, and it's actually in the realm of possibility. Alcohol and pills, what a way to go.
The other thing Rachel suggested with the pills was he had just lost a patient, and maybe that was the patient's medication. Like he had this medication ready.
Oh,
and now the patient died, so he has it sitting there next to him.
On this topic, interestingly, when he was doing the surgery and like it went wrong, my flatmate like literally shouted out, "He's drunk!" And I was like, I don't think so. What do you guys think about that?
I think he was coming out of it. It was nighttime. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Bridge?
I don't know. The thought crossed my mind, like, does he drink to keep his hands steady?
Like John Dory, Sr.?
Substance abuse can be common in high stress positions, like that of surgeons. And so, I don't know. It kind of crossed my mind a little bit. But I was like, I don't know, is that really what we're going for here? Or is this just supposed to be like he's coming in clutch because everything didn't go the way it was supposed to? Well, they got sidetracked for how many hours? And that woman's waiting the whole time for an appendectomy. So did her appendix burst during that time period?
Yeah,
they got held up.
And he probably just focused and, like you said, came in the clutch and just focused. There was something during the surgery, and I didn't want to talk about this at first, but like something that happened during that whole sequence. Oh yeah, I remember now. Actually, maybe Jasmine could, our resident doctor behind the scenes ish.
Just saying no.
But like he wasn't wearing a surgical mask like on TV. Is that a thing? Is that still a thing? Or like because he was like breathing all over that open cavity.
I mean, if you want to start if you want to start nitpicking things that were medically wrong with that scene, I could be here for an hour. So, like, but I could say that about any medical drama ever, because there's always issues and, like, incorrect things. So
But he just kept
I
hawking loogies into
feel
that
like
cavity.
it's necessary to, like, nitpick.
He lost a junior mint in there.
It's just like he was chewing gum, and that's actually what made the appendix burst. That was a big piece of gum that he pulled out of her. That's what it was.
Like all the Walker kills and all the gross stuff that's happened on this show, and that was one of the ones that made me cringe the most. Like after I watched it the first time, when Rachel and I rewatched it this morning, I was like, "Tell me when this part's over." It was like the grossest thing, and I don't know why it affected me so bad.
I'm the exact same way. I can't watch House without grabbing somebody's hand.
Oh God, I was like,
and there's nobody there to grab it. Yeah, it was a bad time for me. Anyway,
I was just looking at the fact that they weren't actually ventilating him with oxygen, like the patient. Like, there was no actual oxygen going into that person's system, and I was just like, that's a good surgery. They'd be already dead by now.
I'm looking at the behind the scenes. This woman's like laughing. They're doing surgery on me.
But like,
whatever.
But, like, if you watch any TV show, like, you watch them do CPR, and it's, like, the most pathetic thing you've ever seen, so
it's not that bad.
Every show messes up medical stuff. I've just accepted it.
And it's not even that. It was just like, it's the same gripe I had. This is the only gripe I had, really, at all, was, like, it's the same feeling I had about The Storm, 9/16, which is, like, everybody's coats were unbuttoned, and, like, they're flapping in the wind. Nobody has their hoods on or hats or anything. And I explained why that is. It's the same reason why Daryl has his helmet off all the time until the last moment. It's like, you want to see the pretty people's faces and bodies. First of all, that studio must be sweltering hot. Like, as much AC as they're pumping into that room. So they had to open their jackets and like, it's so cold out. Fucking zip up, idiot. So anyway, but I'm acting like it's so, yeah. Act like you've zipped up your coat, dumb face. So this is the same gripe I had, like, similarly to the surgery. Is like, why is his face not covered, like, for surgery? And, like, everybody should have like scrubs and stuff on, and the thing, and all the coverings, and maybe even a PPE or something.
It wasn't even close to a sterile field, so, like, it probably didn't make much difference.
Yeah, exactly.
They're literally doing it in the back of a barn. But
notice what the answer is always this. It's always, because I want to see Tommy's pretty face. And he is a beautiful, objectively beautiful man. Like, if it's a contest, look, and I'm going to say this out loud. If this is a contest between, like him and Michael James Shaw, what genetic soup produced such a perfect man? I forget the actor's name, but he is just gorgeous. He's just...
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you an example, and you go back to the tape. But when he's like, I don't do well on the outside, his muscles are like, I don't do well in confinement. And like he's holding his head, and you can see his biceps and the veins popping out. And I'm like, I don't believe you. First of all,
all that stirring he does in the bakery when he worked all those years in the bakery. It's because
1,000-tier cakes. He's like, I gotta hold these. Gotta get swole for holding these cakes.
Look at these cakes.
Cakes over here, also over there. I'm holding them in my hands. One-handed 7-tier cake. Yeah, two arms. Gun shows this way, ladies. And that was the reason. That's the only reason why I wanted to nitpick it, because it's hilarious to see such a beautiful man in an unsterile environment. It's sterile because I'm here. My looks killed all the germs and bacterias.
My plot armor will save this patient.
That's the clip, Charity. Mark it.
Plot armor.
Will fix. I don't think
wear
he has
it
plot
all
armor,
the time.
But man, is he gorgeous. My shame has been littered across this entire episode.
So obviously in the next episode we can see that Leah and Lance have made a deal, like, looks like it's about killing Maggie for whatever the terms are. What do you guys think the terms of the deal are? Like, what does Leah gain from this?
I don't know, because I was like, what could Leah possibly want from Lance? I have no idea. Well, I feel like the task would be reward enough because she's like, you'll provide me with guns and weapons to kill this bitch that I really want to kill? Great. Like, I feel like for her, that's enough. She's like, excellent. That's exactly what I was going to do anyway. Thank you for just giving me guns and ammo to do that. I don't know if he would have done the, like, you can have a special place in the Commonwealth with me. You can be my second in charge or whatever. I have no idea.
You could be my mercer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You could be my military lead because you have a lot of experience.
Because technically you are a mercenary, as he'll probably find out.
Yeah. I don't know if she would want to take that job, but given what she would be provided by Lance and the support she would be given to go do this thing she already wanted to do anyway.
The runway.
I don't see why she wouldn't take it. Like,
but obviously,
with whatever he's offering.
Lance doesn't know about Leah's history with Maggie and the group at this moment in time.
No, he's incredibly lucky. Can we agree with that? Are you kidding me? The perfect person to take something on like that?
Well,
he should have got shot on the spot.
Daryl is with them, and he could always bring Leah back to the camp and see Daryl, and that would bring a lot of things out in the open. He could also promise her, Daryl, do this, and I'll give you, he could find out the history and be like, here's Daryl, do what you want with him.
I wonder if that will happen. But I want to remind everybody just before that, Daryl actually says first, I don't think we can go back to the Commonwealth to Aaron and Gabriel. But what he also says, they're icing all three of them out of the investigation. Or the search is, technically what he said, the search. Meaning they're already on the outs. So it's quite possible that unless they force themselves into the situation, they're not going to know about this Leah situation. And if their intention is to not go back with them, they're going to escape. They're definitely not going to know about this Leah situation, which is terrible for Maggie, at least at first, unless Lance doesn't allow them to leave the situation and holds them in confinement of some reason or another. And it's quite possible they're on a collision course. So, and that's easy to miss because I did miss it on the first watch. I want to also remind everybody something else, which shows how perfect Lance and Leah's arrangement is. What have we said are Leah's people pre-apocalypse, the Reapers? We'd said that they were phantasms wafting into the apocalypse, people who were adhering or clinging onto the old ways. What is the Commonwealth if not people clinging to something that resembles the old ways? And like there's a scary, like weird similarity between the two, the Reapers and the Commonwealth, in that they kind of hold on to their pre-apocalypse forms in this apocalypse. They're somehow able to exist in a bubble that doesn't affect them until it does. But what's the difference? We don't want the Commonwealth to fall necessarily because there's too many people. And let's just say the Commonwealth isn't a bad place. There's just a few rotten apples that happen to be in charge that are holding 50,000 people hostage to pray that the framework holds. But the Reapers, there's just every member was holding on to a framework that, yes, kept them safe. The few handfuls of them that there were. But let's just dial it back, Dave, for a second, because what of Leah is not more pre-apocalypse than her, just like Toby Carlson, falling back into old tracks? What does Leah have left? Nothing.
Dog.
She doesn't even have Dog.
No, but he's still out there.
Right? Yeah, where is Dog?
Oh no, he's in the apartment complex with Judith and Daryl.
Yes, that's right. Okay, solved. Okay, but she has nothing left. Yes, she has revenge, but what's more is now she's being bankrolled for that revenge, just like her pre-apocalypse job-ish thing. She left the war. There was nothing there for her. She couldn't live a normal life. And, being a vet, you're not making a ton of money for all the pain and anguish and service that you've put in. You come in one way, come out the other way. And then what do you have to show for it? Not much money. So she became a mercenary and got to be in the action, as it were, where she felt human. But what is that if not Lance's offer? You can get what you want, be who you want, have that, maybe even be like Pope, have that God connection, that main line to God, do it that way. And then now you're being bankrolled to do your revenge thing. What better arrangement is that? And if she gets to become like General Shaw, all the better. The dark version of Mercer. Isn't that fucking crazy? And the people would still look up to her because she's a good looking lady, and she probably follows orders, and who doesn't like a badass bitch? I mean, right, Sharon, you'd follow General Shaw, right?
If there's one thing that will stop Leah when it comes to Maggie, it's Herschel. Because remember, Leah lost her son.
Okay.
So there's always the chance that she's going to go after Maggie and she's going to see Herschel and be like, wait a minute. Just like she couldn't kill the woman, with the dad and the son, she couldn't bring herself to kill that woman.
But wait, what if it doesn't turn out that way? What if Leah decides that's what got me here in the first place? Me holding back because of the Walking Dead formula, because my time with Daryl, because I could have been the me that I was meant to be. Daryl took that away from me. Let's say she'll blame Daryl because she's neurotic. It's everybody else's fault. Like, what if she decides not to and Herschel dies by her hand? Maybe that's her form of revenge. She takes her blood family away from her. And then we get Isle of the Dead.
They could give her, and this isn't directly related, but they could give Leah Lily Call's comic book story. In the TV show, she's the person that the governor, Philip, then Brian, stays with in that apartment complex. Her dad is dying. He's on oxygen. That's Lily Call in the show. Now, in the comic book, Lily is in Woodbury, believes in the governor, wants him to be successful, starts to kind of think this guy might be a little crazy, goes into the war at the prison, and is told to shoot, and she shoots Lori Grimes, who has just given birth, and she's holding baby Judith. And Lily,
Judith dies.
Yes, and you find out in the novel Companions that Lily had just had a miscarriage, and so this broke her, seeing that baby that she had just killed.
So it happens, but it happens back. It ricochets back to her.
Yes. So I'm wondering, and this has been theorized, what if someone gets Lily Call's story with Annie? And I wonder if that person could potentially be Leah.
You know what else? What if Leah is the cause or is the big bad for Isle of the Dead? What if Leah lives past this moment?
Oh, I'm down for that.
And that's
I'm
something,
totally
huh?
down for that.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah, totally
really
down.
interesting.
Let's move on.
Just let that marinate.
Let's let that marinate, right? Let's let the audience think about that for a minute. Because if this answers some of the fucking horrible things we keep thinking about, I don't know. Some people don't give a shit about Annie, and I don't blame you. She just hopped on. Whatever. How do you care about somebody who just...
Sure.
But how do you combat, or how do you untangle somebody, first of all, somebody that we just met that Negan just married, and then also the fact that Herschel's not in the promos, and it's like, okay, well, here's your answer. It's not great, but hey, at least we get to see more Leah Shaw. Oh no. And Herschel's not there, right? Yeah, oh shit. Yeah, you don't like it, but also there's a part of it's like, I'm here to see it, maybe. And because that would be the only thing that would get them to get Negan and Maggie to team up. This one person killed both my wife and unborn child, and Herschel. And they would be like, you know what? I'm going to help you take down Leah Shaw. And then Leah Shaw comes to Manhattan where there's robots and aliens. I don't know. Whatever.
What? What is this?
Listen, The Walking Dead could jump the shark at any time, people. Some people have arguably said they have. Whatever. It's not arguable. Anyway, think about it. Okay, what else do we got? I don't know that we have anything left to say. We do. There's just the stupidest of things. It's the stupidest of things. But come on, Norman Daryl. You're going to go back to the tape and I'm going to show it on the screen. He's wearing like a child's version of Commonwealth armor. Do you know how I know that? If you look at the top right and left where the shoulder so there's the front plate, right? And his, where the shoulder cutout is tiny, right? They needed to make it small. Because the regular soldiers, yeah, there's like a noticeable cutaway. There's like an almost round corner that cuts in for the shoulders. Normal soldier. His is like tiny. His crotch guard, non-existent. But it's there. It's like for a tiny person. It's for a tiny, tiny human. And it's hilarious when you see it. It's like you can't unring a bell. Furthermore, his armor is like shifted down, so you see mostly black shirt up top. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. It's the funniest fucking thing to watch on television. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. It looks like Kingdom armor. It's not even funny. I mean, it is funny. It's hilarious. But I'm walking around, I'm Daryl Dixon. I'm a dumb fucking son of a bitch. I like how Bridget's like, he's making fun of my guy. I'm literally I'm like waiting for her to crack. And you know what I'm thinking in the back of my head? I'm like, Norman Reedus is like, I'm not wearing that. I don't wear that. I run the show. I'm Norman fucking Reedus. I'm not wearing that shit. I'm not wearing a crotch guard. Are you fucking kidding me? All right, we'll give you a child soldier's outfit. All right, whatever. As long as I cover my big dick. Sorry, just spit everywhere.
This took a real turn. What? What is happening?
Play the tape, David. So did anybody notice that too? Like, because every fucking soldier has like this crotch. The front plate goes all the way down to the dick.
He did have that in like the first episode that we see him in it. Because I thought it looked weird. Like it hung too low on his body or something.
Yeah. But then you notice it's like for a tiny person. It's for the little person. He's a little guy.
Most actors and actresses are. They're
fucking prima donnas.
They're all pretty tiny.
Except clearly it was too small on him. Clearly, for a reason. He didn't want that crotch guard at all.
It must be, I don't know. It must be weird to wear that stuff.
Yeah, but you play your part. You do your part, Norman Reedus. Be a team player. I'm blaming the actor now. Anyway.
I'll have no part of this conversation.
My hero, I will not slander his name. Charity's like, this is fucking... Keep going, Dave. Just, you know what? Just dig yourself more holes with Bridget. When you're done burying yourself, David, I'll have you all to myself and I can do with you what I please. Charity says. And Jasmine's like, what the fuck am I watching?
I think everybody's saying that right about now.
Yeah.
And if you like what you heard, head over to ratethispodcast.com/SquawkyDead until we figure out a better service that we can use to help you rate these podcasts. Rate this podcast in the preferred podcast platform that you choose, but you can also use ratethispodcast.com/SquawkyDead. 5 stars and eggplant in whatever platform you choose to rate us in is all we need to know that you love us. But use it as a sounding board to tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Tell us the weather in your state or city or country or village. Just tell us after every episode. And if you want to join us on this lovely journey behind the scenes, where we tell you things that we don't tell you on social media, and if you value what we have to offer you as a podcast, why don't you try and just follow us on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. You don't have to buy us a coffee for 30 days of access to supportive back content, or even join a membership tier for $1 a month. We just want you to follow us so that you know what's going on behind the scenes, things that we do not publish on social media, things that we won't tell you in person because we're very secretive. We have secrets, and we only spill them on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. And then when you're comfortable, when you feel the moment is just right, we've romanced you enough, you can choose to either tip us or join a membership tier for as little as $1 a month. But you can do whatever you want. It's a free country. You have free will. I'm not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. Be you conservative, liberal, or libertarian. I've been your host, Dave Cameo. I was joined by Sharon, aka Blazy Gardner, and Survivors tier members Bridget, ex-Prophecy Girl on Twitter, and Jasmine.iec on Instagram. Thank you for joining us. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week for the second trimester finale of The Walking Dead's 11th and final season. It's getting real, folks. It's getting real. Bye.
Bye.
There's no coming back. There's no coming back from this, folks.
That was the longest outro that you've ever done.
I think it's the shortest outro I've ever done.
No, they get longer every